All right, buckle up, everybody. We're about to explore a cosmology that kind of flips the script on how we think about time, space, and even life itself. We're diving into Flowers of Creation. It's a document that lays out this vision of the cosmos. It's so intricate, so mind-boggling. It makes string theory look easy.
What's interesting about this document is that it doesn't even really use like modern science. It has its own kind of logic, its own visuals. It's got terminology that might sound like, I don't know, some sci-fi novel.
I'm already hooked. Tell me more.
Okay, so imagine a circular step mountain representing all these different dimensions, or time leaves that are shaped like almonds, or civilizations being seeded across the universe in these vessels. Get this, they look like coconuts.
Coconut,
Yeah.
seriously. I'm picturing like a cosmic coconut delivery service,
Yeah.
spreading life across galaxies.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique way to think about interstellar travel, but the real challenge here is to try to decode this document, understand its symbolism, and see if it can offer us any like fresh perspective on humanity's place in the cosmos.
Okay, so let's start with the centerpiece of this whole thing, the flower of creation. What is this cosmic flower all about?
Think of it as like a map, but instead of like charting stars and planets, it depicts realms, dimensions, even the evolution of consciousness itself. The document shows this flower with 6 huge petals. Each of them represents a primary humanoid race.
Hold on. Other humanoid races. Like besides us, are we talking Star Trek aliens here?
That's what the Flowers of Creation suggests. And they're not just like scattered randomly. These races evolve along paths represented by these petals, like each petal's a highway, an evolutionary highway, leading to some really advanced state of being.
My mind is already blown. Okay, so 6 major petals.
Yeah.
For 6 major humanoid races. But what about all the other life forms in the universe? Where do they fit into this floral arrangement?
That's where things get even more complex. Honestly, kind of mind-blowing. Each of these huge petals, they contain smaller petals, and those contain even smaller ones. It's like this fractal pattern. It just keeps repeating. Each level zooms in on a specific timeline or group of beings.
So the smaller the petal, the more specific the life forms or timeline.
Exactly. And here's a detail that I thought was really interesting. It says as you move down to lower dimensions, closer to our reality, the number of petals increases like crazy.
So our little corner of the cosmos is like teeming with all this crazy diversity of life. That's kind of exhilarating and kind of terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, it definitely challenges how we think about how unique we are, how alone we might be. But in the middle of all these petals and timelines, right at the heart of the flower, there's this central line. This is a paradise realm, and it's inhabited by these beings. They're called ether beings, and they're made of pure consciousness.
Ether beings, pure consciousness. Is this like the ultimate state of being, where
Right.
you're beyond all physical limitations?
That's how it's depicted. Think of it as the source, the final goal of evolution for all life forms.
Okay, so we've got this cosmic flower, 6 main petals, countless smaller petals, a central vine representing pure consciousness. That's a lot to picture. But the document also mentions this circular step mountain. How does that fit in with this cosmic flower?
The circular step mountain. It's a way to visualize this very complex 7-dimensional structure of the flower of creation. Think of it as a spiral staircase, winding through all these different levels of reality. Each step, each platform, represents a distinct era with its own unique characteristics.
So climbing this mountain is like traveling through time and different dimensions.
Basically, yes. The document says these steps have distinct lifestyles, different technologies. What's interesting is that the lower rings are actually more technologically complex. It's reflecting this decline in connection to like natural rhythms and universal laws.
So in this model, more technology doesn't necessarily mean more advanced. That's a pretty different way to think about things.
It definitely challenges our assumptions about progress. It suggests that real advancement is about aligning with those universal principles, not just manipulating the physical world. Remember those ether beings, the ones at the peak? Well, they're described as existing beyond the need for technology as we know it.
Okay, so they're like ultimate minimalists, just living in pure consciousness.
Yeah.
But who are these other beings, the ones hanging out on the different steps of this mountain?
Well, right below the ether beings, you've got the Malurians. They've got these fluid, shape-shifting bodies. They're described as being able to like mold matter with their thoughts, almost like cosmic claymation artists.
That's wild. Imagine changing your form at will, like a cosmic chameleon. What about the next step down?
That's where you find the Agurthans. They're described as masters of handcrafts and NAE, which is basically life force energy. They're all about skill, artistry, and a deep connection to this vital energy.
So they're like the ultimate artisans. crafting not just objects, but experiences,
Yeah.
infused with this life force energy. That's pretty cool.
We have the pre-Adamites,
Mm-hmm.
an ancient group living in an underwater city.
Right.
No belly buttons.
Really?
Gills, like, able to breathe underwater.
Wow.
What do you think about their choice to modify their DNA so drastically?
It definitely challenges our assumptions about what it means to be human.
Mm-hmm.
They consciously chose to adapt to their environment
Yeah.
in a way that seems almost unimaginable to us.
Okay.
It raises questions about the limits of our own evolution.
Right.
And whether we might one day consider similar modifications to our species.
They also had incredibly advanced technology,
Yeah.
even beyond what we have today.
Right.
But they seem to understand the power of the mind,
Mm-hmm.
how to use it to shape reality.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe their technology was an extension of their consciousness?
It's certainly possible.
Okay.
What if their technology was not just about manipulating the physical world,
Yeah.
but also about harnessing the power of thought and intention to create the reality they desired?
That's quite a thought, isn't it?
It is.
We tend to think of technology as something external.
Yeah.
But what if it's ultimately an extension of our own minds?
Mm-hmm.
A tool for manifesting our inner reality into the physical world?
And then there's the Agarthan. But where do we fit into all of this? Are we humans stuck at the bottom of the mountain just fiddling with our gadgets?
Actually, humans occupy a set of rings called the Macronicon rings.
Macronicon rings. That sounds kind of ominous.
They encompass all of human civilization from the very beginning to what the document calls the synthetic and apocalyptic eras.
So it's like this highlight reel of human history. All our triumphs and failures laid out across these rings.
Exactly. It challenges that linear view of history, suggesting that the past, present, and future are way more interconnected than we typically think.
Okay. So we've got this cosmic flower with 6 main petals and countless smaller ones, representing different timelines and beings. Then there's this circular step mountain, representing different dimensions and eras of civilization. It's like a multidimensional map of existence.
It's a very complex and layered model, for sure. But even in its simplified form, it offers this unique perspective on how everything's connected. And there's more. The document introduces these intriguing concepts of time leaves and cocoons of reality. You ready to explore those?
Absolutely. What are these time leaves?
Imagine these pockets of reality, but not just any pockets. They're connected to specific events or intentions, like tiny snapshots of moments in time.
So every decision, every action creates one of these time leaves. That's a lot of pressure.
Well, it's important to remember these time leaves are described as primitive, almost like cross-sections of larger cocoons of reality.
Cocoons of reality. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What are these cocoons, and how are they different from time leaves?
Think of time leaves as the building blocks of a cocoon. A cocoon has a much broader scope. It contains multiple timelines, even different dimensions, all connected.
So each event has its own time leaf, and these leaves cluster together to form a cocoon. What shape are these cocoons?
They're described as being almond-shaped.
Almond-shaped. Is there a reason for that? Some deeper meaning?
That's a great question, and one the document doesn't quite answer. But it suggests the shape shows how multiple realities affect our linear timeline.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Our usual idea of time is like this straight line down the middle of the almond. But the almond shape implies that there are other forces, other dimensions, constantly interacting with that straight line, influencing it.
Exactly. It's like the curved edges of the almond are warping our perception of time, suggesting there's more going on than we can normally see.
This is getting deep. What's going on inside these time leaves? What's the structure like?
Inside each time leaf, there's this idea of foundational reality. It's the original intention that started the time leaf, and it never changes, even as events unfold within its timeline.
So it's like the seed of that reality, the initial spark that set everything in motion.
Exactly. And from this foundational reality, you get multiple probable timelines emerging. These are the branching possibilities arising from that initial intention, like different paths reality could have taken based on different choices.
So it's like a choose-your-own-adventure book. But for reality itself, that's pretty wild.
It definitely opens up some mind-boggling possibilities. And the document says that these probable timelines, they kind of narrow and become obsolete towards the edges of the time leaf.
Obsolete. Does that mean those timelines just cease to exist?
It seems so. Like they reach a point where they're not viable anymore, like they can't sustain themselves. And then you have these areas at the top, bottom, and edges of the time leaf called dead zones.
Dead zones. That sounds a little creepy.
They're described as areas where time and space get really extreme and limited, almost like the boundaries of reality. And the document hints that these dead zones might have the potential for time travel.
Time travel. Okay, now you're speaking my language. Tell me more about these dead zones and how they relate to time travel.
We'll get to that. But first, we need to unpack one more concept
Okay.
from this document: the seeding of civilizations.
Seeding civilizations. Intrigued. Don't leave me hanging.
All right, all right. But we need to take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll explore how this cosmology explains the rise and fall of civilizations and the role of those mysterious coconut-shaped vessels, the Mbengi.
All right, I'm ready for more. You left us hanging with that whole seeding of civilizations thing. I gotta know how that works. It's like the universe has its own cosmic gardening program going on.
The flowers of creation. It has this fascinating picture of how civilizations rise and fall. And it's not just randomly, it's part of this deliberate cycle. It suggests that when civilizations reach a certain point, they don't just disappear, they seed new worlds. They carry the spark of life to other parts of the cosmos.
Okay, that is mind-blowing, but how does that actually work? Do they pack their bags and hop on spaceships?
Well, according to the document, they use these vessels. They're called Mbengi, remember those?
Oh, yeah. The cosmic coconuts. I'm still kind of chuckling about that. But how do they actually work? Are they like little arcs, carrying DNA and ecosystems to new planets?
That's the idea. The Mbengi are described as containing preserved species and ecosystems, basically acting as seed pods for new life. They're launched from planets that are dying, and they land on suitable planets in new universes.
Their purpose,
Yeah.
to seed new life after a reality has ended. The Mbengi are vessels of rebirth and renewal, carrying the potential for fresh starts on new worlds.
Okay.
They pass through black holes,
Wow.
which the text refers to as irises,
Right.
to enter new realms.
It's like a cosmic rebirth,
It is.
a journey through darkness into a new dawn.
It's beautiful imagery,
It is.
but it makes me wonder about the mechanics.
Yeah.
What's inside these Mbengi, and how do they actually create life?
The text describes a carefully designed ecosystem
Okay.
within each Mbengi, with a central vine acting like a control center. It regulates the environment and prepares the inhabitants for their eventual emergence onto a new planet.
So it's like a self-contained biosphere,
Yeah.
a miniature world traveling through the cosmos.
Precisely.
And when the Mbengi reaches its destination,
Yeah.
it undergoes a process called the blooming of the flower of creation.
Okay.
Imagine the Mbengi as a giant seed as it blooms.
Okay.
Its petals, representing different species and life forms,
Okay.
unfold and spread onto the surface of the new world.
It's like a cosmic fireworks display,
Yeah.
with life bursting forth in all its glory.
The text describes specific stages.
Okay.
First, geographical formations,
Mm-hmm.
then plant life, followed by animals,
Right.
and finally humans.
It sounds like a carefully choreographed symphony of creation.
And all orchestrated by the seed of consciousness?
Yeah.
That blueprint for the entire process.
It's mind-boggling to think about the scale and interconnectedness of it all.
It is.
From the smallest seed to the vastness of the cosmos.
So it's not just about saving individual life forms. It's about transplanting entire ecosystems to new worlds. That's cosmic recycling on a whole new level.
It really makes you think about how life is connected across vast stretches of time and space. And there's another layer to the seeding process. The Flowers of Creation mentions a 13th tribe.
A 13th tribe. Who are they? Are they like the cosmic welcome wagon greeting these new civilizations?
They're described as these guardians. They protect ancient knowledge. And they quietly guide civilizations. Think of them as like cosmic librarians, safeguarding wisdom and making sure it gets passed down.
So they're the keepers of history, working behind the scenes to nudge civilizations in the right direction. That's a big job.
It seems so. And here's where it gets interesting. The document suggests that these guardians often appear as advanced beings, even gods. At the start of new civilizations.
Hold on, gods. Are we talking about actual deities? Or just super advanced beings that early civilizations mistook for gods?
That's a great question, and one that the Flowers of Creation kind of leaves open. It's definitely possible that these guardians, with their advanced knowledge and technology, could easily be seen as gods by less developed cultures.
It makes you wonder about our own myths and religions. Could some of those stories be based on encounters with these ancient guardians? But let's get back to those time leaves and dead zones. The document hinted that those areas might hold the key to time travel, right?
Yes, and that's where we meet this fascinating person, Zulija. She was from the Imakashala civilization, the ones who were all about crystals and energy manipulation.
Right, the crystal enthusiast. What's so special about Zulija?
She had this powerful artifact. It was called the Bagajili. It was a pendant that let her travel her consciousness through different realms and timelines.
Wait, a pendant that enables time travel. I need one of those.
Yeah.
But seriously, how does it work? Does it tap into those dead zones you mentioned?
The document isn't totally clear on the mechanics, but it describes Zulija using the Bagajili to access these thread lines. These are pathways through reality itself. They connect different points in time and space.
So it's like a cosmic GPS, guiding her through this labyrinth of time. Amazing. Where did she travel? Did she visit other planets, other dimensions?
The document doesn't really say where she went specifically, but it does mention this important discovery she made, the ancient space wall.
Okay, the ancient space wall. That sounds important. What's that all about?
This wall was discovered way later by this spacefaring civilization, led by a woman named Amalian. They found it while they were exploring a distant galaxy. It was this huge celestial diagram depicting the flower of creation, offering clues to how reality is structured.
Wow. Cosmic blueprint etched across space. Did they figure out how to read it?
They got help from this group, called the Secret Order of the Flower. They were guardians of ancient knowledge passed down for generations. This order had tablets explaining the wall's deeper meaning. They claimed they got them from beings called vine navigators, who could travel along threads of consciousness across timelines.
Vine navigators. Threads of consciousness. Ancient space walls. This document has some seriously evocative imagery.
It really does spark the imagination, and according to the tablets, the ancient space wall revealed this whole other universe, bigger than our own, with beings capable of doing things that we can't even comprehend.
Okay, now we're talking about some serious cosmic construction projects. Did the tablets say how these ancient beings fit into the flower of creation?
They did, and they described how new civilizations are seeded throughout the cosmos. Apparently, it all starts with a small group of people, often twins. They're raised by guardians, who teach them and guide them.
So it's like a cosmic mentorship program, prepping these individuals to start new civilizations. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But we already talked about the seeding of civilizations. Is there something new here?
Well, the tablets suggest that these guardians might be the ones who actually create and launch the mbenki, those coconut-shaped vessels.
So they're the ones packing these cosmic seed pods, sending them out across the universe. That's incredible. And they often appear as gods to these new civilizations. That's a good way to make an impression.
It really makes you think about the guardians' motives, what their long-term goals are. Are they benevolent guides, or is there something more to it?
That's a great question. I'm starting to think this Flowers of Creation document is less like a map and more like a cosmic mystery novel.
I like that analogy. And like any good mystery, there are always more layers to uncover. The document introduces us to another interesting character. Her name is Zuriha. She's part of the 13th tribe. But unlike the others, she's a canopy sleeper.
Canopy sleeper. Okay, now I'm lost.
Don't worry, it all connects. These canopies are vessels. They allow members of the 13th tribe to go into the state of suspended animation. They attune their consciousness to a different flow of time. Basically, Zuriha can wake up at any point in history. She travels through time by choosing when and where to come out of her canopy.
Whoa, that's time travel on demand. Did she interact with Amalian, the woman who found the ancient space wall?
She did. Amalian wanted to understand the wall's true meaning, so she sought out Zuriha's wisdom. Zuriha led her to this hidden cave. It had another version of the ancient space wall inside, but this one was a three-dimensional holographic structure.
A holographic space wall. That's amazing. What did it look like?
Imagine this giant glass statue. It's shaped like a tree. And it's constantly changing. As you walk around it, you see different images appear: leaves, flowers, fruits. Zuriha explained that this was the tree of creation. It represents the entire cosmos, all its dimensions, realms, and the evolution of consciousness itself.
So it's like the ultimate cosmic family tree, showing how everything is connected and how consciousness unfolds throughout the universe.
Exactly. Zuriha explained that the tree showed the cyclical nature of civilizations, their rise and fall like seasons.
Right, we talked about that before. But is there something new here? What else did Zuriha say about this tree of creation?
This is where it gets interesting. Zuriha pointed out that there were actually two trees. They mirrored each other. One represented the physical realm, and the other represented the ancestral realm.
The ancestral realm, is that like the realm of our ancestors, our lineage?
Not exactly. It's more like the realm of pure consciousness, the source where all physical reality comes from.
Okay, so there's this duality, this interplay between the physical and the non-physical. And the tree of creation is like a bridge between them. But we already talked about the flower of creation. How can there be a tree of creation too?
Well, the flowers of creation. It uses multiple metaphors and visuals to explain its complex ideas. The flower emphasizes the diversity and interconnectedness of life, while the tree focuses more on the cyclical nature of existence and the evolution of consciousness.
So they're complementary models, each giving a different perspective on the same reality.
That's a great way to put it. And Zuria emphasized that the tree wasn't static. It was constantly growing, changing, evolving, with new branches representing new possibilities, new timelines.
It's like a living map of existence, reflecting the dynamic nature of the cosmos. But didn't we talk about time leaves earlier? What do those have to do with this tree of creation?
Zuri explained that the time leaves, those almond-shaped pockets of reality, are like snapshots of individual events or intentions. They branch on from the main timeline represented by the tree. Every decision we make creates one of these time leaves, influencing the future of the cosmos.
Wow, so we're not just watching, we're active participants in the evolution of reality itself. That's pretty empowering.
It is. But just like our choices can lead to growth and new possibilities, they can also lead to dead ends and obsolete timelines. Remember those dead zones we talked about?
Right, those areas at the edges of the time leaves, where time and space get all distorted. Are you saying those are the result of bad choices?
The flowers of creation doesn't say that directly, but it does suggest that those dead zones are areas where possibilities have run out, timelines that have reached their limits.
So it's a cautionary tale, a reminder that our choices have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for reality itself.
That's one way to interpret it. And as we go deeper into this cosmology, we meet another interesting figure, Kasim. He mastered time travel.
Another time traveler. Okay, tell me more. Where does Kasim fit into all of this?
He learned about time travel from Amelian, the woman who found the ancient space wall. But here's the thing. Kasim wasn't from Amelian's time. He traveled from a much later era.
So a time traveler from the future learns about time travel from someone in the past. Isn't that a paradox?
It definitely bends our understanding of linear time. But the flowers of creation suggests that time is way more fluid and interconnected than we usually think. Anyway, Kasim took this knowledge of time travel back to his own era and formed a group called the Leaf Keepers.
The Leaf Keepers, what were they all about? Protecting the time leaves from damage.
They wanted to preserve a certain order in the universe. They believed they were maintaining a cosmic balance.
So they were like cosmic gardeners, pruning the tree of creation to make sure a specific outcome happened.
That's a good analogy. They wanted to manipulate events within the time leaves to make sure certain people were in power, and that history unfolded according to their plan.
But wouldn't that interfere with free will? With the ability of individuals and civilizations to choose their own destiny? That sounds kind of controlling.
That's a great point, and it's something that not everyone agreed with. The document mentions a group called the Ibidans. They opposed the Leaf Keepers' methods.
Ah, so rebellion against the cosmic control freaks. Yeah, I knew there had to be some resistance.
The Ibidans believed that the Leaf Keepers were stifling creativity and preventing new possibilities from emerging. They wanted to disrupt their control and change the course of events, allowing for more freedom and diversity in how reality unfolded.
So a cosmic battle between order and chaos, between those who want to control the future and those who embrace the unknown. That's an epic conflict.
It definitely adds another layer of complexity to this already intricate cosmology, and it raises some big questions about time, free will, and how consciousness shapes the future.
This is getting really deep. But the outline also mentions the 7 stages of creation and the 7 human senses. How do those fit into all this?
That's where the flowers of creation connects its cosmic model back to our human experience. It suggests that the 7 stages of creation are mirrored in the phases of water, from consciousness to light, space, vibrations, pattern, substance, and finally, mass.
Okay, so water,
Yeah.
which is essential for life, reflects the stages of creation itself. I can see that connection.
And these 7 stages, they're linked to our 7 human senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, movement, and the sense of weight and mass.
Wait, 7 senses? I thought there were only 5.
That's what we usually learn. But the flowers of creation says that our sense of movement, our ability to feel our body's position, and our sense of weight and mass are distinct senses, each connected to a specific element.
Okay, so each sense is linked to one of the stages of creation. That's fascinating.
It goes even deeper. The document says we have 7 physical bodies, each corresponding to one of these stages, reflecting different aspects of our being.
7 physical bodies. You're blowing my mind. Can you say more about that?
Well, the flowers of creation. It's a bit vague on the details about these 7 bodies, but the main idea seems to be that we're not just physical beings, we're multidimensional beings made of energy and consciousness, and we're connected to the fabric of the cosmos.
Wow, that's a really different way to think about ourselves. It suggests there's way more to us than we can see.
Definitely. Mind-bending concepts.
Yeah.
What about the Zoltron canopy? It sounds like something straight out of, like, a time traveler's toolkit.
The Zoltron canopy is described as a time-traveling device,
Okay.
modeled after the cocoon of reality.
Okay.
It uses relics as keys
Okay.
to unlock specific timelines. Imagine each relic as a key to a different era.
So if you want to visit ancient Rome,
Yep.
you need a relic from that time period.
That's the gist. But remember, the Zoltron canopy seems to have limitations.
Right.
It can't just hop across all of time and space.
Right. Right.
And of course, time travel comes with its own set of risks.
Right. Messing with the past could have some serious consequences.
Yeah.
What kind of dangers are we talking about here?
The source material mentioned side effects like mental disorientation
Right.
and memory loss.
Okay.
Imagine forgetting who you are
Yeah.
or where you come from because you've altered your own timeline.
Right.
It makes you think about the delicate balance of reality.
Yeah, totally.
It's a fascinating blend of ancient wisdom and advanced technology.
Okay.
The Zoltron canopy is powered not by fuel,
Right.
but by the focused intention of the navigator.
Wow.
It uses relics from the past
Okay.
and is guided by principles passed down through generations.
So it's like a marriage of the ancient and the futuristic.
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't transport the physical body, right?
No.
The text describes it as sending an energetic blueprint of the individual.
Right, like a fax.
Yeah, it's like sending a fax of your consciousness
Uh-huh.
across time and space.
Exactly. Your physical body is reassembled at the destination.
Okay.
But what's traveling is this energetic essence,
Mm-hmm.
this blueprint of who you are.
It makes you wonder about the nature of consciousness
It does.
and whether it can exist independently of the physical body.
I've heard of lucid dreaming,
Yeah.
where people can consciously control their dreams
Right.
and even interact with other beings in the dream realm.
Do you think that's a similar concept?
It's certainly possible. What if lucid dreaming is just a glimpse
Mm-hmm.
into the potential of our consciousness
Right.
to navigate different layers of reality?
That's a mind-blowing thought.
And perhaps those encounters we sometimes dismiss as just dreams
Yeah.
are actually glimpses into other dimensions or interactions with beings from other timelines.
This text really encourages us to question everything
It does.
we think we know about reality.
If we accept that our thoughts and intentions can shape reality,
Right.
does that mean we're all responsible for the world we're creating?
Absolutely.
There's also this mention of perceptual space bubbles.
Yeah.
That sounds like something out of a physics textbook.
Think of it this way.
Go.
In a video game, your character moves through a virtual world.
Right.
Perceptual space bubbles seem to function similarly,
Okay.
creating the illusion of movement through time and space. By manipulating our perception.
It suggests that reality might be more malleable than we think.
So instead of physically traveling through time,
Yeah.
our perception of time is shifting.
Yeah,
That's a whole new way of looking at things.
it is.
It reminds me of how a movie creates the illusion of movement
Yes.
from a series of still images.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
It all goes back to the idea that consciousness isn't passive.
right.
It actively shapes our reality.
Hmm.
What we believe and perceive might have a bigger impact than we realize.
Okay, so we're not just along for the ride.
Right.
We're actually co-creating reality.
Yeah,
That's a pretty empowering thought,
it is.
but also a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And speaking of responsibility,
Oh,
there's Project Zoltron.
right.
That's where things take a bit of a dark turn.
Project Zoltron was an attempt to save Amalian civilization from an impending collapse.
Right.
Kind of reverse Big Bang, where the universe contracts instead of expands.
Oh.
Imagine the entire universe shrinking down to a single point.
Yeah.
They were literally racing against the clock to find a solution.
So not just an apocalypse, but
Yeah.
a universal one.
Yeah, a universal apocalypse.
And they were trying to use time travel to fix it.
Zoltron, the mathematician behind the project,
Okay.
laid out some ground rules about time travel,
Okay.
suggesting it's not a simple fix-it-all solution.
Right.
He also had this fascinating concept of instances,
Instances.
explosions of empty realities,
Okay.
constantly changing based on the present moment.
You're going to have to break that down for me.
Imagine reality as a constantly refreshing TV screen.
Okay.
Zoltran believed these instances are like the refresh rate, updating reality in every moment. And he thought that foundational realities,
Okay.
represented by those relics we talked about,
Yeah.
held the keys to navigating these instances.
Okay, my head is spinning a little, but I'm starting to get it.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
So Project Zoltron was trying to use these instances and Zoltron's knowledge of time to somehow rewrite their doomed future.
Essentially, yes. They were trying to manipulate the very fabric of reality to avoid a cosmic catastrophe.
Right, yeah.
It makes you wonder
Yeah.
if the universe is constantly updating.
Yeah.
How much influence do our choices and actions really have on the grand scheme?
But amidst all these mind-bending concepts, there's one more piece of the puzzle. The document hints at what ultimately happened to Amalian's civilization. And it talks about the secrets of the Mbengi. We'll dive into that fascinating chapter when we come back for the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back, everyone. We're in the final stretch for a deep dive into the flowers of creation. And honestly, my head's spinning. We've got time leaves, the tree of creation, those mysterious guardians. It's been like a whirlwind tour of the universe and all its hidden dimensions.
It really challenges how we see reality, doesn't it? But remember, we left off on a bit of a cliffhanger. What happened to Amalian and her civilization? Did they escape their dying world, or were they overwhelmed by chaos?
Yeah, Amalian had that big realization after talking to Zuriha, learning about the cyclical nature of civilizations. Did her people listen? Did they change their ways?
The flowers of creation suggest that a lot of them did. They understood that their pursuit of technology and their disregard for the planet had put them on this path of self-destruction. Inspired by Amalian's vision, they started changing their priorities, trying to live in a more harmonious and sustainable way.
So they finally started listening to the planet, realizing they were part of a larger ecosystem, not just rulers of it.
Exactly. They focused on restoring their environment, rebuilding their communities, and cultivating their inner selves. They were determined to break free from that cycle of rise and fall that had trapped so many civilizations before them.
That's hopeful. So they managed to avoid disaster. They found a way to live in balance.
Well, it's not quite that simple. The document paints a more complex picture. You see, despite their efforts, the damage to their planet was just too severe. They faced all these catastrophes, solar flares, volcanic eruptions, massive storms. It was as if the planet itself was rebelling against their past actions.
That's a powerful reminder, isn't it? That even when we change our ways, we still have to deal with the consequences of our past choices. Like they say, you can't unscramble an egg. But what did Amalian's people do? How did they survive all that?
This is where things get really interesting. Faced with this increasingly hostile world, they retreated underground.
An entire civilization going subterranean. Wow. Did they build those massive underground cities like in the sci-fi movies?
The flowers of creation describe something even more incredible. They turned to the teachings of Zuriha and the 13th tribe, embracing a path of inner development and spiritual growth.
So they didn't just build physical shelters, they went inward, focusing on their consciousness and their connection to something greater.
Exactly. They created this underground sanctuary, a place where they could weather the storms, not just physically, but spiritually too. They practiced meditation, cultivated their inner senses, and strengthened their community bonds.
That's a testament to human resilience, isn't it? Our ability to adapt. But you also mentioned the secrets of the Mbengi. What are those secrets, and how do they connect to all of this?
Ah, yes, the Mbengi. Those coconut-shaped vessels that carry the seeds of life to new worlds.
Right, like cosmic Noah's Arks.
Well, the flowers of creation reveals that Amalian's civilization eventually built their own Mbengi.
They built one, but they were already living underground. Where would they even go?
That's where the document gets a little mysterious. It suggests that their Mbengi wasn't just a physical ship, it was a living, evolving structure.
A living spaceship. Now that's something I've never heard of. How did they build something like that?
They used a special tree, a tree that could live and thrive underground. It absorbed carbon dioxide and released oxygen, purifying the air and sustaining the people.
So a symbiotic relationship, a give and take of life-giving elements.
Exactly. And this wasn't just any tree. It had these long, flexible tentacles that they used for weaving and building. They basically cultivated this tree, guiding its growth, until it formed a huge, self-contained ecosystem, a world within their underground world.
So they created a biodome inside a cave system.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But how did they connect this tree to the Mbengi, the ship that was supposed to take them to a new world?
That's the fascinating part. The flowers of creation implies that this tree structure actually became the Mbengi. It grew and evolved, incorporating their technology, until it transformed into a vessel for interstellar travel. It was this fusion of nature and technology, a testament to their understanding of interconnectedness.
So they co-created this living spaceship, working with nature, not trying to control it.
That seems to be the key takeaway here. And remember those dead zones we talked about, those areas where time and space get distorted? Well, the document suggests the Mbengi could actually use those distortions to travel through black holes and emerge into entirely new universes.
So they didn't just escape their dying planet, they escaped their dying universe. That's some serious cosmic thinking. But what happened to the people inside? How did they survive a journey like that?
The Flowers of Creation talks about this substance called newt. Amalian's civilization discovered it. It could put people into a state of suspended animation, preserving their lives for long periods.
Like natural cryogenic freezing.
Exactly. When conditions got too harsh, or when they went on long journeys, the Mbengi would release newt, putting its passengers into this deep sleep, protecting them from harm.
That's incredible, like a cosmic lullaby, guiding them through the toughest times. But the document doesn't say where they ended up, right? It just hints that they went to a new universe.
That's right. The Flowers of Creation leaves that part open, but it suggests that the Mbengi, this living ship that could navigate the distortions of time and space, was able to carry the seeds of Amalian's civilization to new worlds, new beginnings. Their fate remains a mystery, an invitation for us to imagine all the possibilities that exist beyond our current understanding.
What a journey this has been. We started with a cosmic slougher, explored a mountain across dimensions, unraveled the mysteries of time leaves and cocoons of reality, and ended up with a civilization escaping a dying universe on a living spaceship.
It's a testament to the power of imagination, isn't it? Our ability to envision worlds beyond our perception. But amidst all these fantastic ideas, I think there's a deeper message woven throughout the Flowers of Creation.
What's that?
It's a message about interconnectedness, the cyclical nature of existence, and the power of consciousness to shape reality. It's a call to recognize that we're not just observing the cosmos, we're active participants in its evolution.
It's a reminder that our choices matter. We have a responsibility to live in a way that honors the balance of life, not just for ourselves, but for all beings, across all dimensions, throughout all of time.
Beautifully put. As we wrap up our deep dive into the Flowers of Creation, I'm filled with this sense of awe and wonder, a renewed appreciation for the mysteries of the universe and the potential that lies within each of us.
Me too. It's a reminder that there's always more to discover, more to learn, more to experience, and maybe in those unexplored realms lie the answers to the questions that have been with us since the beginning.
Maybe, and just maybe, by embracing the wisdom of these ancient cosmologies, we can unlock those answers and create a future that's both beautiful and fulfilling.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the Flowers of Creation. We hope it sparked your imagination, ignited your curiosity, and inspired you to explore the mysteries that lie beyond the horizon.